Welcome once again to the Cow Report, and I'm your host Chuck Lee, and this is a live program on a beautiful March 25th snowy evening here in Eau Claire. I think the temperature is about 10 degrees right now, and I don't know exactly how much snow we have, but I know that I got buried very deeply in my driveway today, and it was no fun shoveling that wet snow to get out. And if you haven't shoveled yet, be careful when you do shovel, because it's really heavy and a lot of exertion could cause problems. So take it easy while you're shoveling out there. And as usual, boy oh boy do we have a lot to talk about. And I don't know where my rusty trusty sidekick Fred the Truth Stafford is. I can't find him anywhere. I don't know if he slipped on the snow out there. I've sent out Roy Rogers Hoff to look for him. Of course, Roy Rogers Hoff is the great grandson of Hopalong Cassidy's daughter, Calamity Jane, on John Wayne's side. Of course, that was many, many years ago. But Fred, if you're holed up somewhere with a bottle, or if you're laying out in the snow, push your beeper or your that caller thing that says help, I can't get up, push that thing, Fred, because we can't seem to find you, and it's 2 minutes after 9 here on the old Cow Report. And of course, this is show number, what is this now, Roy? Show number 3,807? Okay. All right. And we are taking calls tonight. Roy, I can see Roy in here now. We rearranged our studio so I can see exactly what's going on in the control room, and that'll let us know what's happening out there in telephone land. We have a request tonight. As you know, the county board and all the other elections were last Tuesday night, a week ago tomorrow, and I was running in District 17, which is kind of the Shawtown area on the west side of the river, the Chippewa River, and on the east side in the El Dorado area south of the Shopko area. And there are a lot of the student apartments in there and the elderly apartments. Well, anyway, during the race, as you know, I won the primary over with my other two opponents. And it looked like we were breezing along to a victory in the general election, which was the primary election of last Tuesday. Well, unfortunately, my opposition, my opponents, were had some people calling for them, and they identified themselves as people calling for the Gene Schleve campaign, and one of them was making some rather false statements, off-color statements about me in several areas, and that was in District 17. And so I'm requesting, if anyone received those calls in that district before the election, leading up to the election of last Tuesday. I know some people already called me on Saturday the 16th, which was 3 days before the election, but I guess from what we've ascertained, the calling was done from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday before last Tuesday election. So about 5 days worth of what they call suppression calls were made by the opposition, and some of them were basically totally false. And if you received any of those calls, I would like for you to give me a call, and not necessarily on this line, but I'll give you my home number, and Roy Rogers Hoff can put that up on the screen below the other number, and that is 834-3908. And I'd like to talk to you about exactly what was said, because according to some sources, those calls were illegal, and so I'd like to hear more from you on that. I think Roy says we got a call on the air, and maybe it's Fred. Maybe he rang his help I can't get up buzzer, and we can send Roy out and get him. So we'll take this first call now. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I guess this is another candidate who come up a little short.
A little short?
Yeah.
Who is this anyway?
Really the common man. Also a candidate, but I went for District 11. Problem is, I was up against somebody. Now, the guy you was up against, he kind of your beliefs are a little bit more similar. But I went up against a guy who was a complete liberal. Everybody bought it anyway. I don't know how he pulled it. Let's just say pulled it on everybody. I think.
Is your phone cutting out or is mine?
I don't know. Sounds all right to me. I can, I can hear you. This phone is not exactly a brand new phone. So who knows?
Are you on a wireless or something?
No.
Seems to be cutting out on this end. But anyway, so this is a common man, formerly known as Randall Beminister.
Close enough.
All right. And you ran in what district?
11.
What was your margin over there?
Well, the difference in 98. Funny part of it was I put out 600 flyers, and there was only about 400 votes total. So you figure it out.
How many flyers?
I put out 600 flyers in this area.
Huh.
No.
Yeah, 600. Okay, all right.
There was only about 400 people that voted in the whole area. That's,
I think you got roughly about 2,000
Hey.
votes.
All nice and everything nice and thankful for the 147 that stuck for me. But on the other hand, there was 245, and for the other guy, and I don't know how many of them were in my ones that read my material, or most of them I figure probably are over in his area. But I tried to cover as much of the territory as I could, get quite all of it, and I didn't expect to get all the votes in the area anyway, because I figured, well, especially by his area, I thought, they'll probably all stick up for him because he's in the neighborhood thing.
Okay, Carl. Well, since I got you on,
like I say, guys.
yeah, since I got you on the line here, I might as well ask you a question.
Okay.
Let's see. On this date, March 27th, actually 2 days from now, actually in my computer software program, there just wasn't much happening the 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th of on these dates in history, so I was kind of short on the questions here. But anyway, 1964, March 27th, there was a devastating earthquake, killing over 100 people and causing major damage. Where was it at?
Oh, boy. Probably in California, most of them are.
There you go. That's probably why he didn't get elected. Doesn't even know a simple answer like that. Those kind of things might come up on the county board floor, and then what are you going to do? All right. The answer is Anchorage, Alaska. And that thing really ripped through there and just really caused some damage up there in Alaska. I've seen pictures of it, and boy, I tell you, the earth really dropped in some areas, and there was a tsunami, which is a large wave of water came in and crashed against it, tipped over boats and ships and threw them up on the shore, and it was just a major, major earthquake that luckily only 100 people. It was a sparsely populated area, Anchorage, Alaska. If it had been in LA, it would have been thousands killed. That was March 27th, 1964. Okay, we've got some heavy bills down there in Madison that are you know what happens in Madison. We elect the assemblymen and the senators and send them down there, and they twiddle their thumbs and their fingers for 2 years. Then all of a sudden, when it's time for the assembly to shut down before the elections, all of a sudden they get busy and they stay up and they work late, and sometimes their sessions will run all night, and boy, they just look like they're really doing something. But for the previous 2 years, they've been twiddling their thumbs and collecting PAC money. Well, now they're getting down to it, and they've got to pass some of these bills. And so some of these major bills are getting kind of serious. One of them is Assembly Bill 688. And Assembly Bill 688, which you should probably call your legislator if it hasn't been passed already. I'm sure it hasn't been, because like I say, they wait till the last minute to do anything down there. The rest of the time they're posturing for money and for favor with the governor and with the voters. Anyway, Assembly Bill 688 is to make English the official language of the state of Wisconsin. And isn't it a shame that here, 200 and some years after the country started, we're still trying to make English the official language of some of these states. And the State Assembly is currently considering this bill, and I'm asking Senator Dave Zine to support it in the Senate and Rob Krybeck to support it in the Assembly. Assembly Bill 688, making English the official language in the state of Wisconsin, so that if you go in to vote, you'll be able to read the ballot. If you go down to the store to buy something, the official language will be English. And of course, that's very important because there's several things that make a country a country. One of them is its borders, secure borders that are protected from enemies. We have borders, they're not protected very well. We're flooded with illegal aliens and with drugs from other countries. But the other thing that's very important is a common language. And our common language in this country is English. Now, of course, when you go home, you can speak Italian and you can speak French and Vietnamese and German and all those things. But when you're out in the business world and you're on the phone and stuff, everyone expects English to be spoken. And we expect to read English when we get something mailed to us. It just makes things easier, and it's one of the things that make the United States what it is, a great country and the superpower that it is. We've got another phone call coming in, and so we'll take that here in a momento. Got to make a note here about something I want to bring up that's going on over in the Soviet Union. All right, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hello there. How are you doing tonight?
All right.
My name is Bill, and I received one of those phone calls that you were talking about earlier, and I have to admit I was quite distressed about it.
All right.
Yes, they were saying things like you were molesting children and stuff like that.
They were?
Yes, I was very disturbed.
Huh.
They said that you sold cocaine and shooters, and that you were going to farms and molesting cows.
Boy, that's pretty heavy, but I wouldn't put it past some of those callers. Okay. All right, in today's newspaper, or not in today's news, but on the internet, I read about the Soviet space program and one of the cities that was built just specifically for the launching of missiles and space satellites to orbit the Earth and all that stuff. And pretty much now, they even had, the Soviet Union even had their own version of the shuttle program. And they have almost a duplicate copy of a shuttle that's rusting in this city that I was reading about. And it's pretty much the whole system now is in decay over there. But I read something in that article on the internet was interesting, and that was that the United States is paying the former Soviet Union, which is now called Russia and some of the other satellite countries, but they are paying the Soviets $400 million a year to prop up their program. Now that's with your tax dollars. That's with American tax dollars, $400 million a year. And supposedly some of that money is going for the Mir space station, where they've just dropped off a female astronaut, an American astronaut, I think. The one they docked here just a few days, or today actually, and they exchanged supplies, and they left an American astronaut on board the Mir space station, which is a Russian space station. Well, supposedly most of the $400 million a year is going towards that. But it's a shame that $400 million of American tax money is going down the cesspools and rat holes of Russia. And another big one, after I take this call, is about housing in Russia and who's paying for that. You might be interested to know. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, Doug.
Hello.
The point you didn't win.
Well,
You would have won.
Well, I only lost by 23 votes.
But Dole did good for presidential.
Yeah, I kind of got doled. People have known for the last 3 years on this program that I've been backing Pat Buchanan very strongly, and so the Dole forces were out voting heavy. But those suppression calls that were made in my district were, according to my sources, illegal, and I would like to hear from anybody that received those. And Roy Rogers Hoff is going to bring up that personal phone number, and it's 834-3908. That's my home number, and I've got an answering machine hooked up right now, so you can leave a message while you're watching the show, and that way I can get in contact with you off the air. Okay, what's going on tonight, caller?
Getting awards on tonight.
Huh?
Movie awards.
Movie awards. Who won the best actor?
It hasn't been yet.
Well, have they named anything yet?
Other awards, like best supporting and the small ones, but not the big ones.
Who got the best supporting?
Some guy from, I think some good, one movie.
Get Shorty or something like that?
Gordy.
Shorty.
I think it was, some guy from, Kevin Spacey from The Usual Suspects.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Okay, caller, since I've got you on the air, I might as well ask you. There's that phone number now, 834-3908. He's got it backwards. So don't call that number because you're liable to call my opponent or something. Okay, caller, since I got you on the air, I think you might have called up once before and answered a question right, so I'm going to give you a tough one.
What?
March 28th, 1979. What happened? Let's see if you can answer that one.
I don't know.
Well, there you have it. I don't have to give away any more freebies. You want to know what happened on that date?
What?
Something very important. Roy, you still got that number wrong. Don't call that number you just saw on there. You'll be calling somebody that I don't even know. 834-3908. Of course, Roy's been punch drunk ever since the election. He's trying to help Common Man, and of course he supported me, and he used to live down there in Shawtown many, many years ago. All right. 1979, March 28th. The nuclear power plant at 3 Mile Island malfunctions in Pennsylvania. Backup and safety systems managed to avert a catastrophe, but the experience severely tarnished the image of nuclear power, and of course, just a few years later, Chernobyl went and almost did a meltdown to China. Actually, I don't think it would have melted down to China, probably closer to the United States, but anyway, Chernobyl did some very serious damage because they didn't have the safety precautions built in that we do in this country. And here, I think about 12 years later now, since Chernobyl, leukemia and deformities and deformed animals and stunted crops are showing up all over that region, all kinds of cancers. The statistical charts are going off the deep end, off the top, because of the radiation things that have happened in that country since Chernobyl. So thanks a lot for calling in, caller. And you going to Party Wreck tomorrow night or Wednesday?
Yeah, I'll see you Wednesday. I didn't see you last week.
Wednesday night.
I didn't see you last week.
We'll see you there or be square. Okay. All right, we got some serious stuff to talk about tonight here. Here's one that comes from, let's see, this is a Reuters News Service article. This happened a few months ago, but I just dug this out. Couple charged with feeding kids boiled rats. This is in Chicago. A 52-year-old man and his wife charged with multiple counts of sexual abuse allegedly injected their 4 children with cocaine and fed them a diet of cooked rats and roaches, prosecutors said Tuesday. Gerald Hill, one-time manager of a Chicago transient hotel, was indicted on 1,200 counts of sexual abuse and battery against the children, a boy age 5 and his 3 sisters age 11, 10, and 12. He is the father of either 2 or 3 of the girls, authorities believe. Prosecutors said the children were fed a regular diet of skinned and boiled rats, rolled in flour and deep fried, as well as cooked cockroaches served with hot sauce. A court hearing scheduled for Tuesday for Hill, who has been in jail since December in lieu of a $100,000 bond, was postponed. His wife Barbara was charged with 4 counts of aggravated sexual assault and also held on a $100,000 bond. Authorities said she often used the bulk of her $1,200 monthly welfare check to purchase drugs. Her $1,200 monthly welfare check to purchase drugs. The children have told counselors of suffering through more than 4 years of torture, beginning in 1989 and ending in 1994. So there you have it. One prosecutor told the Chicago Tribune about the children who they said will undergo tests on their hair follicles to determine if cocaine remains in their systems, but each had scars from needle marks, and one girl had a burn mark allegedly inflicted to hide a needle scar. This one prosecutor told the Chicago Tribune, "It must have been hell." Boiled rats and cockroaches. All right. What'd you say, Roy? Did you say we had a call? Okay. We'll take this call now, and then we're going to get back to the new money that's on the streets this week around the world. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi, what do you think of the snow?
Isn't it wonderful?
Not really. I hate snow.
How much did we get anyway?
I don't know, a lot. 13 inches.
That's hard to believe, but I'll tell you, I went out to the store last night, and that stuff was just, I mean, it was thick. You couldn't even
I couldn't get on my driveway this morning.
you couldn't even clean off your windshield
Yeah.
to get out of the driveway without having to turn on your wipers because it was just coming down so fast. But it was amazing. I didn't know it was 13 inches, but that stuff was wet and sticky.
So when is spring?
Spring is, I think, about 5 days ago. 21st was, I think, March 21st was spring.
You're kidding.
And but I know if you're like me, you're probably just getting sick of this winter. It's just been dragging on, and of course, you know, once this water starts thawing, or once this snow starts thawing, we'll probably have some major flooding when it really comes rolling out of the north.
Yeah, because I can't play tennis, you know, because there's so much snow everywhere.
Where do you play tennis at?
Down by the river, you know, on Water Street.
Oh, right down there where it floods.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand, they're going to tear out all those houses along that area there.
Why?
And they'll probably move that, maybe they won't, but they'll probably bring in a couple feet of dirt and raise that area up because it's because of the flooding in there. That's
Oh, yeah, I see.
those right off the water when you go north there along the river, along Owen Park there. I think that first row of house is going to be eliminated.
No, mine won't be.
I don't know if you live that area, but most of those houses are going to be removed. And some more up on the by the bus barns up there. I think those are going to be removed too. So what else is new out there? So you had to shovel snow this morning, huh?
Yeah, but I had my shovel.
You did what to it?
I couldn't find it.
Poor kid. All right. The new $100 bill is hitting the streets all over the world. That's the American $100 bill. And it's the first time it's been given a facelift of this magnitude since the 1920s. Any of the dollar bills, or any of the bills. This is a $100 bill, but any of the paper currency that the United States puts out, this is the most massive facelift. And supposedly it's to thwart counterfeiters. And there's a big counterfeiting ring in Iran who supposedly has dumped hundreds of millions of dollars of fake and phony and fraud $100 bills into Russia and the Middle East. And you know, right now in Russia, the $100 bill and other American currency is the #1 currency in that country. It's used more than the ruble. And there's fears all over the world. Panic is setting in now that the United States is not going to honor the old currency and the old $100 bills, and they're going to do a currency devaluation like the Russians' ruble has done twice in the last few years, which wiped out most of, or quite a few of the elderly in Russia's lifetime savings when they devalued the ruble. They're afraid now that with two $100 bills on the market on the world currency scene that possibly the United States will devalue or declare the old $100 bills null and void after a grace period of a few weeks or few months. Now, unfortunately, in Russia, when they did it, they pulled the old ruble on a Friday after the banks closed and said that they were worthless, and you had just 2 or 3 days to turn them in. And so a lot of people were caught in that and lost their life savings. But this new $100 bill is to hit the streets this week. I called a local bank, a couple local federal banks. They're expecting them here on Thursday. Some of the bigger cities, like closer to the U.S. Treasury and to the U.S. Mint, or where the printing presses are running, supposedly they've already printed by Monday 850 million new $100 notes will have been printed, or $85 billion worth. And this was said by a spokeswoman from the U.S. Federal Reserve. Not all will enter circulation immediately, but will be sent to banks as they are ordered. The $100 note, known to many as a C note, is the American bill the counterfeiters most try to copy. And let's see, some of the features to improve security on the new note include a watermark. That's something you hold up to the light and you can see something in the paper itself. Ink on one number that changes from green to black depending on how the bill is held, and a special thread embedded vertically in the paper. Treasury officials have spent the past few months reassuring the public, especially overseas, that the old $100 notes will have the same buying power as the new. 2/3 of U.S. currency circulates overseas. Isn't that wonderful? Those are those greenbacks. 2/3 of all U.S. currency is out of this country, with Russia having the largest amount in circulation outside the United States. When the United States government has issued new currency, it never recalls the old currency. So the old hundreds will continue to be valid and hold the same value that they've always had, said U.S. Treasury Undersecretary John Hawke. Of course, as I said earlier, this is the first major facelift on paper currency in 60 years. Similar changes to smaller denominations are planned in the future. So you better start digging out those old hundreds and trading them in for the new, because when they say they're not going to do something, usually they do. And a year from now, your old hundreds might be worthless. So don't hang on to them too long. Okay, we better take a call at this juncture. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck, your facts are a little behind. That story in Chicago about that welfare family, the kids have recanted most of what they've said, and they've dropped charges on those parents.
They did?
Yep.
Well, thank you. This here was from February 6th, though it is kind of an old article.
Yep.
So what did the parents get?
They've been released. They've dropped all the charges on them because they don't have enough evidence other than what the kids had said, and they've taken it back. So.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yep.
It sure sounded good when I first read it.
Well, so bad.
Well, thanks for calling in and telling us that. Okay. That's always glad. We're always glad to hear a positive note there to a sad story. All right, non-citizens come to America to retire on welfare subsidies authorized with bipartisan support. Hopefully this is still good. This is February 20th of '96 in the Wall Street Journal, and it's reprinted in the Howard Phillips Issues and Strategy Bulletin, which comes out every 2 weeks and costs $100 a year. So you can take one of your old greenbacks and buy a subscription to that if you want. Robert Rector points out in the Wall Street Journal, page A22, that the U.S. welfare system is rapidly becoming a deluxe retirement home for the elderly of other countries. In 1994, nearly 738,000 non-citizen residents were receiving aid from the Supplemental Security Income Program. This was a 580% increase, up from 127,000 back in 1982. 580% increase in just 12 years. The overwhelming majority of non-citizen SSI recipients are elderly. Most apply for welfare within 5 years of arriving in the U.S. An analysis by Norman Matloff of the University of California at Davis shows that 45% of elderly immigrants in California receive cash welfare in 1990. Among Russian immigrants, the figure was 66%. Among Chinese, 55%. Worse, recent immigrants are far more likely to become welfare dependents than those who arrived in the U.S. in earlier decades. If current trends continue, the U.S. will have more than 3 million non-citizens on SSI within 10 years. $328 billion for huddled masses yearning to live free of charge. Without reform, the total cost of SSI and Medicaid benefits for elderly non-citizen immigrants will amount to more than $328 billion over the next decade. The cost of providing SSI and Medicaid benefits for those individuals will reach more than $67 billion a year by the year 2004. All right. I think we have a call on line 7. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was just wondering where Fred is tonight.
Well, you know, his number, I ought to call him and just find out what's going on with Freddie boy.
Is he all right?
Well, you know, this weather, he might have got confused and couldn't find his way up here.
That's possible.
Well, one day it's, what, in the 50s and all the streets are clear and there's no snow. The next day it's 12 degrees and we've got 13 inches of snow on the ground. That would confuse a lot of people.
Yeah, I suppose.
And, of course, we gave Freddie that beeper and he's not beeping it, so I don't know where he's at.
I hope he's all right.
It's a mystery. You know, he got lost once before about a year ago, and I sent Roy out, and he found him in the corner down there with a bottle. So hopefully that's not the case again.
You found him with a bottle?
Yeah.
Of what?
I don't know. Roy said it was empty. So we don't know what was in it. But we got him up here. He was about 5-10 minutes late that time. So what do you got on your mind tonight? Have you got anything of serious concern, or you seen anything in the city that bothers you, or out in the county or the country or around the world?
Actually, I was kind of concerned about the snowplows. They didn't seem to be in quite a hurry today.
Well, I heard somewhere that it takes 15 hours. There's over 300 miles of roads in Eau Claire. It takes the street department 15 hours to clean them from one end to the other. So the snowstorm actually started late last night or last evening after the sun went down, and so hopefully by morning the roads will be all clear. Why, are you in an area where you can't get out or what?
Well, they're just coming past my road right now, actually.
Well, son, the guy driving has probably been working for 12, 13 hours straight, and they've got just so many plows out there, and the city does the best it can with what they got. But when you get that much snow, over a foot of snow, it's that heavy wet stuff, I'm sure it's just slowing everything down. But I drove up here from the Shawtown area, and the main artery seemed to be nice and clear. Some parking lots I drove, like over there at Ron's Castle Food, the parking lot there looked like it hadn't even snowed over there. So they really got in there and cleaned them up quick. But those are private plowers doing that. But your main streets should be cleared by now, and your side streets should be done by morning. Of course, who am I to know? It might take a week to dig out of this one. Maybe it'll melt before they get to you. You better stock up on food.
Yeah, we're plenty stacked up, bud. What's that bottle that you guys got on the desk there?
Oh, that one there?
Yeah, a bottle of juice, silly juice you got.
That's Flavin Pop. You can find that in finer funeral homes everywhere. And
It looks pretty nice.
And they don't know exactly what it's made of, but it's tasty.
Yeah, those burgers are looking pretty tasty there on your desk, too.
Yeah, let's see, I think they're a quarter a piece. No, actually they're 19 cents a piece, or 5 for $1. So it's cheaper if you buy one instead of 5.
Huh, that
Now,
makes much sense.
I know, it doesn't make much sense. And you know, you think about it, those guys out there doing all that target marketing stuff, you'd think they would flip that around so it would be cheaper to buy 5 of them and they'd sell more. But actually, the less you buy, the cheaper they are. It's one of those reverse gimmicks to get people to buy.
It doesn't make too much sense, does it, bud?
But you can buy them right here for 5 for $1 and come down, and if Fred ever shows up, he'll take you on a tour of the facilities here and show you the new taco stand, and we got new fryers in here, and of course we're using British beef.
Yeah, that's good stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but it's just cheap, so we bought up tons of it. So you can come on down and get your hamburgers, 5 for $1, 19 cents each. What is 5 times 19 anyway? It's just 95 cents.
10 cents, bud.
95 cents or 5 for $1, yeah. So it's cheaper to buy them one at a time. So come on down and to the Cow Report taco stand and television program and get your tacos and hamburgers, 5 for $1 or 19 cents each.
Well, Chuck,
On sale today. And you can meet Roy Rogers Hoff, Chris and Cliff Economaki, the Siamese twins of engineering, Fred the Truth Stafford,
Fred, yes.
and myself. So come on down. Get yourself one of them taco burgers.
Well, listen, Chuck, sorry about the election there, but I enjoy your show, and just wanted to give a quick shout out to Chris and Kelly and Lang, who are who are watching your show along with us tonight.
They are.
For the opportunity to be on TV, but appreciate it.
Are you a college student?
Yes, I am, sir.
Where'd those college students go on election day?
I don't know.
I'll tell you, it's pretty pathetic over there. You know, during the primary, my district, the east side of my district, there's 600 people on that east side over there in Ward 21. And the vast majority of them are students. You know how many people voted?
Not too many.
In the February 19th, or February 7th, I think, or something like that. Anyway, the primary, before this last March 19th election. 4 people out of 600 registered voters.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with a lot of people in America these days is, they don't take it upon themselves to use their constitutional right to go out and vote. But, I think our generation, we aren't seeing the type of candidates that, we feel could, really make a change in our world,
Are you part of that Generation X?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
I understand the importance of voting and, things like that, but, I hear stories from my mom of, about how great Kennedy was, and, I just haven't seen anybody, in my lifetime that has really made too much like an impact on me at all.
Well, because of the Bosniafication of the United States, you probably never will see a charismatic leader that will unite all the various factions in this country, from the far left to the far right and everything in between. Those days are probably gone. What you probably see is characters. You'll see like right now out on the I don't know if you'd consider him on the left, but Ralph Nader's running on the Green Party, and he hopes to pull votes away from Clinton, because says Clinton is Tweedledee and Bob Dole is Tweedledum. There's not a penny's worth of difference between them, even though they're in separate parties. And then on the conservative side, you got a Pat Buchanan that's rattling his saber, saying that he might lead a third-party charge. And then you got Ross Perot, who kind of doesn't fit into a lot of categories. He's talking about running again. So the days of one charismatic leader leading a whole country like they do in, say, North Korea, where you're forced to worship the same leader for 30, 40 years, those days will probably not be seen again in the United States. It's going to take quite a character to reunite this country, because of all the factions that are vying for the hearts and minds of the people of this country. And that's possibly why you see these low voter turnouts now. Yeah,
that could be. I'd kind of like to, see some fresh candidates out there. I'm kind of, sick of these stereotypical Republican candidates, year in and year out. Like, look at Dole, he's, 70 years old? I mean, come on. How is he going to possibly lead this country? I'd like to start seeing some minority leaders, maybe some women, just to change things up.
Well, Dole's kind of the status quo. Clinton is a new Democrat who actually is some people are saying that what he's doing is actually helping the wealthy in this country, and it's helping keep the minorities and the poor right where they're at, poor and downtrodden, and Dole is going to maintain the status quo. You're going to go back to the days of George Bush, back to the 80s with Dole. You're not going to see anything new out of him. There is a glimmer of hope there with Perot, but he only pulled 19%. And Pat Buchanan candidacy, he'll represent the pro-life conservative Christian evangelical conservative Catholic wing, and he'll pull about 20% if he stays in as a third party candidate. So what you're going to see is you're going to see Bill Clinton reelected.
Who I think would be a good candidate, actually?
Who's that?
Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah. Well, on that note, he hangs up. Well, in some respects, he probably couldn't be worse than some of the characters that are running parts of the government now. All right. Boy, have we still got a lot to talk about here. Okay, do not believe Washington. This comes from Don McIlvaney in his intelligence report. McIlvaney tells about the McIlvaney Intelligence Advisor, and it costs about $129 for a 2-year subscription. The government claims that all is well with our economy. They say official numbers indicate that inflation is low and jobs are increasing. Well, yes, jobs are increasing, but guess why? Massive layoffs are forcing middle-class workers to settle for 2 low-paying part-time jobs. And because so many now have 2 jobs instead of 1, the government can trumpet increased employment. Unfortunately, neither job offers benefits, and the combined hourly wages are far less than the former full-time job paid for one person, which makes a mockery of Washington's pride in low inflation. Even if inflation is only 3 to 6%, what good is that to a worker whose wages are down 10 to 50%? The hard truth is that over 64% of American workers now earn less than $30,000 a year, regardless of how many jobs they hold. Millions of Americans are simply worse off today than they were 2 years ago, and even more, millions of Americans have dropped off because they've been unemployed so long they're not even counted in the statistics of the unemployment figures. Personal savings are low, delinquencies are rising, bankruptcies are increasing. U.S. household debt is at its highest level since the 1960s as a percent of personal disposable income. Another Washington deception is that Clinton claims that NAFTA has created more than 2 million jobs, paying well above the national average. According to McIlvaney, this is total bunk. As Ron Paul, a former congressman, says, NAFTA has instead cost over 1 million American jobs. When pressed for proof of jobs created by NAFTA, the U.S. Commerce Department cited 4 U.S. firms as NAFTA success stories. But when San Francisco Examiner reporter Robert Collier called the 4 firms, they all said no U.S. jobs had been created because of NAFTA. That's from the McIlvaney Intelligence Report. Roy, we got a call out there in Viewerland? All right, that's Roy Rogers Hoff, great nephew of Tom Mix and a former relative of Butch Cassidy and the Hole in the Wall gang. Former because Butch Cassidy's been dead now for several years. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck, we got a call here about you.
You did.
A week ago, yeah.
You better
I don't even live in your district.
Better turn your TV down just a smidgen there. Getting a little feedback on your telephone.
So I think it's rather interesting that they would bother calling people that don't even live in the district that you were running in and trying to whip up hysteria.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you. The Leader Telegram started the whole thing on Thursday when they printed a comparison. They hid it way back in the B section or C section of the paper on the back page, or way back in there somewhere. It was hard to find, but it was a comparison between my opponent, Mr. Sleevey, and myself. And that comparison wasn't too bad. It was slanted towards Sleevey because that's the Leader Telegram for you. But right below that, then the Leader Telegram put another article telling about how what the county board's choices will be and as far as seating me if I'm elected. So they were planting a seed of doubt in the readers' minds right then that I could be seated if I won, and that's pretty much the kickoff point for the suppression calls that started Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday prior to the March 19th election. So you got one. What part of town are you in?
Well, we're over here in the 15th Ward.
Huh. They were so zealous that they were even calling over there, afraid I might be running over there too, huh?
Well, I think they were trying to recruit people to call into your district. So they were calling around town to get people going, and they hoped to kind of snowball into an all-out calling frenzy.
Yeah, feeding frenzy. Well, it turns out that 2 of these suppression callers were county board members. They were nervous if I got on there that I might help stop the abortion clinic they got planned for the Eau Claire area. And a few other things, big spending items that they're going to be dragging up here in the next 2 years. So these 2 county board members were help leading the charge on these suppression calls. What exactly was your call about?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it particularly nasty, but I mean, they called and they said, well, you know, that trustee character is awfully far right, and well, we can't have that, and you know, you better help us stop them, and that kind of thing.
Are you on a list of the Republican or Democratic Party anywhere?
Well, possibly. I don't really know.
Because it's kind of unusual that they'd be calling way over in the 15th. I'm in the 17th district, and they were spreading their poison over in that area because I got several calls myself, and we identified 2 of the county board members. There could have been more that were making calls. But one of them was particularly nasty and spreading total outright lies, and we checked with the Doyle's office in Madison and a few other places, and they said it appears to be suppression calls, and they must have been nastier inside the district than out. They were probably just, like you say, trying to whip up a feeding frenzy on the fringes of the district to get people like you to call against me if they knew anybody in the district.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So it was an organized effort.
Yeah, most mafias are organized. This was the anti-Chuck Mafia working last week. But you know, you can't keep a good man down, and I'm telling you right here on this program, March 25th, 1996, I'm going to come back in 2 years and whip his butt.
All right, well, good luck there.
All right, thank you. Okay, well, has anybody heard from Freddie yet out there? Has anybody found Freddie? We're looking for Freddie, the Truth Stafford. We don't know exactly where he went to, but he's running out of time. There's only 12 minutes left. Okay, so you got to be aware of that, some of the stuff that comes out of the U.S. Government, because according to Don McIlvaney, we're on the verge of a collapse of the stock market. He says it could plummet to 1,800. Right now, what is it, 4,500, something like that, 4,600? And probably lower. If you're still in the stock market when this happens, you're going to lose 60, 70, or even 80% of your money. And I'll tell you, you people that are in the, you better put on there, eat British beef, Roy, eat British beef. We just got a special on that because people are talking about some disease that makes your mind go crazy and worms get in your mind and eat it away. It's from eating British beef. Well, we just got a special. The wholesalers called us up and we bought 500 tons of it at an unbelievable price, 2 cents a pound. That's how we can sell it down here for $5 for $1. So eat British beef. Don't be fooled by those rumors of going crazy and mad cow disease. And since we brought that up, I might as well get to that article now because it's very important that you continue to eat beef. British government downplays mad cow disease, March 25th, 1996. And this comes from CNN News, Internet, CNN Interactive. A British official quelled rumors of a mass cattle slaughter Monday when he told Parliament that no new government controls are needed to combat the deadly mad cow disease that has created a virtual panic across Europe. Concerns turned to fear and panic Wednesday when the disease, bovine, spongiform encephalopathy, was linked to the death of 10 young Britons. The government acknowledged that the disease was the most likely source of a similar human brain ailment, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Officials have said that slaughtering the country's 11 million herd of cattle was one option, but have made no move in that direction. Well, they might as well slaughter it now because there's no trust left in British beef. The European Union of 12 European nations, they just passed, actually 14 nations has already stopped imports of European beef. And so it's curtains for European beef. And the reason why this disease has jumped from animal to man, which it was an animal disease, it affects the spine and the brain of sheep and also of cattle, and it's transferred through the beef of cattle into humans, is because in Britain they chop up sheep, parts of the spine and the brain, and they mix it in the feed that they feed to the cattle. So there you have it. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, Chuck.
Yes.
You would elaborate somewhat this $100 bill, this new one coming out.
Yeah.
So my own clarification, I'm a little puzzled. If I, example, if you had like a saving in the bank, and that savings, would that be affected anyway this way?
Okay, the government is just reassuring everybody around the world right now that this new $100 bill, which they printed up 850 million of them, and they'll be hitting the federal banks around the country and around the world this week. They claim that nothing's going to change, that the buying power of the old $100 bill will have the same buying power as the new one. All I was saying was, in Russia, when they came out with the new ruble, the old ruble was declared worthless, and they only gave the people of that nation a couple of days to trade them in. A lot of elderly people were caught. They couldn't get to their banks. They couldn't get their savings. They couldn't dig up their cans of rubles in time. They couldn't get them to the bank in time. A lot of people lost their life savings over there. When they finally did make it to the bank just shook their head and said, sorry, those are worthless. And so all I'm doing is a comparison that the Russians now, the Russians use the American currency more than they do the ruble, and there's a panic going on over there now that they're afraid that the old $100 bill is going to be declared worthless or found out to be a counterfeit, and they'll be caught in the same situation again.
Well, if it's in the bank or in your personal possession, it won't matter. If this comes to pass, I mean, what effectively, not say, quote unquote. In other words, if you had, or what I'm saying is, you had some in the bank, and whatever savings you had, and you deposit with money to hundreds, and then if you got in your own personal possession hundreds in cash, would that being a bank also could have the same effect that either way would be worthless?
Well, if you got money in the bank and you say you got $1,000 in the bank and you go 2 weeks from now and you go draw it out, they'll just give you 10 of the new $100 bills.
Oh yeah, right.
They probably won't they won't. Eventually, what they'll do is they'll pull the old $100 bill off the market.
Right.
That's what they'll do. They don't like having two of the same denomination bills out there at the same time. So they will eventually retire the old $100 bill, the one you got in your pocket, or the one that some people have seen. I'll show you what the old $100 bill. You know, there's thousands of people out there that have never even seen a $100 bill. Probably millions, especially in this country.
Yeah.
But there's a $100 bill.
Right. Right.
And this is the old one.
Yes.
Actually, it says right on the back of this one, it's stamped Northwest Bank, Wisconsin. But these will eventually, they're Roy Rogers Hoff, my rusty, trusty engineer, who's helping Chris and Cliff Economaki, the Siamese twins of engineering, get a close-up of this. This $100 bill, there it is, came out in 1990. In 1990, they started replacing all the $100 bills before 1990. And what they did, when they did that, was they put that metallic strip right here. And if you hold it up to the light, you can see where it says USA 100. And also, right around the crown of Ben Franklin here, in fine, very fine print, there's also some printing. I can't even read it, it's so small, but I think it says USA 100 on there too. So they put in some anti-counterfeit precautions into these $100 bills that came out in 1990. This one's a 93 model, but you'll be hard pressed to find any $100 bills before 1990. So they phase out the old ones, getting up to this one here, which is harder to smuggle out of the country because of that strip in it. And a lot of people will rip that strip out because supposedly it can be caught on scanning machines or something, but at least that's the rumor I've heard. But anyway, these will be phased out, just like the old $100 bills are being phased out now.
So if you got, as far as personal possession, take them to the bank, then put them all on your savings, and then it'll automatically convert over to the new one.
Yeah, your old money will be converted, or you can take it down.
Right.
I called one of the federal banks here in town, and they said it's going to be a week before they get them.
And took it and just added to our savings now. Well, we're, how would you say that? Safe at last? As far as anything deteriorating, or as far as anything may not being worth much, if that at all would be. So the thing would be, it just add savings then.
Well, you know that.
Then it would automatically convert, and there should be no chances that way.
Yeah,
There was to be any.
right, if they pull a fast one next week and say your old hundreds are,
Yeah.
because of all the billions of dollars that the underground economy has in this country and all the $100 bills that they're using for commerce, we're gonna declare the old $100 bill null and void in 24 hours. Well, that'd be a panic in this country.
Yeah.
People would flood the banks couldn't handle it, so they're going to ease them in. They printed $850 million. Those printing presses run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
They never stop. So they'll be printing these new $100 bills.
I'm not an expert, but I follow the monetary system a little bit, and that's why it caught my ear when I'm listening to you now. And so all I'm going to do is just take this to the bank and just add our savings, and then it should be,
Right. If you want to draw it out in a couple of weeks.
or even if I don't draw it out, it'll automatically convert. Where
Yeah, right. You can. Yeah, it'll convert
I
eventually.
wait till they come out, and the ones that I come out just to say I want to exchange it, well, it might be a little different impression. This way I say, here, I want to add my savings, that'll automatically convert me.
Right.
I appreciate it very much.
I don't think. Okay, thanks for calling. I don't think that this government is brave enough yet to do what they did in Russia, where they just declared a currency null and void and replaced it with a new currency. Now, another communist nation, Nicaragua, pulled the same stunt. I think it was on a Friday right after the banks closed. They declared the old dinero or whatever it was worthless, and they instituted a new one, and it wiped out people's savings down there. But that's the communists for you. They pull those stunts. I don't think this country is powerful enough that they can do that to their own people yet. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
How you doing tonight, Chuck?
All right.
Too bad Fred didn't make it in tonight, huh?
Well, we're still holding out hope. We got 2 minutes left that he'll stumble in here. But if I find out that he's got another bottle out there, I'll tell you, there's going to be hell to pay.
Yeah. What do you think the chances of Thompson being Dole's nominee for the vice president?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think it's very good, but I'll have to say this for Tommy. He has brought down the welfare boondoggle in this state, something like 25%. I was just reading over the last 7 years. But I don't think they want Tommy Thompson in there. You're going to probably see an Easterner, somebody from like Campbell from South Carolina, who was the former governor there. Or you might see Forbes join up with him, or somebody from California, a big state. They're going to need, Colin Powell said he doesn't want anything to do with it. Powell's just going to sit back and watch Dole lose, come back in 4 years and take it himself. So why should he embarrass himself in a loss when he can wait 4 years and come in and be the first black man elected president? That's his thing.
I was hoping he'd be there to vote for. He's kind of a good guy to have on our side as far as this Indian treaty rights thing's concerned. And I think he'd bring it to the attention of a lot better and something to get done finally.
Well, thanks for calling in, caller. We only got a minute left. Talking about those treaties, the Indians have upped the amount of fish they want to spear this spring. They supposedly are using it leverage against Governor Thompson for the gambling franchise that the Indians have in this state. And also there's a bill that they're trying to pass down there to increase gambling by getting video poker in the taverns in this state. And so gambling they're trying to expand it. And if you're against that gambling bill, call your representative. I think it's AB 633 and AB 774, sponsor of video gambling, and see if you can stop it. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. I've been your host, Chuck Lee, and I'll be with you again 2 weeks live. And once again, if anybody from the 17th District received one of those suppression or nasty calls, give me a call at 834-3908. I'd love to hear from you on that. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Adios. And Fred, you better get back here. You're in trouble. Good evening.